Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another Madden 20 Ultimate Team video, and today I'm going to be doing another tier list. I'm going to be ranking all of the users in Madden Ultimate Team. Now, I did not make this tier list. I don't know if I'm able to see who made this tier list or not. It's FerdyHK on Twitter, so shout out to him apparently. He made this tier list, so check him out right there. But yeah, before we get in the video, guys, make sure you guys drop a like down below and subscribe with notifications on if you guys are enjoying the videos and you want to see more. I know I'm not uploading as much right now. I'm trying to go for at least every other day with these uploads. I'm doing a lot of quiz videos, a lot of tier list videos, and occasional gameplays and 2K videos. Right now I'm just kind of sticking with these, just trying to get the vibe going, and I'm super excited for Madden 21. That is when I'm going to be pumping out videos 1 to 2 a day, maybe even more, depending on the timing of school and all that stuff. But I'm really excited for Madden 21 to come out, and I'm going to make a bunch of content on that. But yeah, guys, let's get right into the video of ranking users. Starting off, we got Calvin Johnson as the first one. There's not going to be many cuts in this video because I just kind of, with these tier list videos, I don't like to do a bunch of editing on these. Just kind of keep these simple and just keep these simple and just keep it so you can just keep watching the entire time, not have to deal with a bunch of cuts. Calvin Johnson, he's S tier. This dude, he's 6'5", he's like not 99 speed on most teams. He's insane. I mean, there's not much really you could say about him. He's expensive, but he's extremely good if you have him. Best user of the game, definitely would keep him. Next up, we got Patrick Queen. I didn't really play with Patrick Queen. Like, I played with a lot of these cards. I didn't play with this Gold 99, but I played with the other Calvin Johnson, so I kind of know what it was like. I don't really know much about this Patrick Queen card. I'm going to put him in A just because he has a 99 overall cards, and he's got to be good for that. Other than that, I mean, he's okay, I guess. Like, I'm pretty sure he's pretty tall, like 6'2", I think is what his height is. I'm not exactly sure. I know he's known for his speed, he's known for his hit power, so definitely one of the better users in the game when it comes to rookie premieres. Not sure whether he's gonna get a bunch of upgrades next year because he was a late first round pick, so we'll see whether he gets another couple more upgrades in next year in Madden 21, so his rookie premiere is worth it. I really only did one rookie premiere, which is Derek Brown, just because he's a Panther. But other than that, Patrick Queen is okay. Next up, we got Sean Taylor. He's an S tier, man. He is very similar to Calvin Johnson. Actually, no, we're gonna move Sean Taylor down A tier. Now, this is not ranking safeties. This is ranking exclusively users, who you would use over the middle, and maybe who you would use at safety if you like doing that. But Sean Taylor is insane, man. Like, his card is so good as he has insane hit power, insane zone, pretty dang good man, insane play rec, and all that kind of stuff. He just like is the perfect safety, and I love how they made Sean Taylor perfect safety because he deserves a rip to Sean Taylor, but definitely deserving of having, like, being the perfect safety. Like, he's everything you would ever want in a safety, and he's also a pretty dang good user. I wouldn't say he's as good as Calvin just because of the height, but because Calvin is pretty much just Sean Taylor, a better user. He's like a little bit worse than Sean Taylor, but he's got the height, so that's what makes it better as a user. But Sean Taylor is definitely the better safety, but like I said, I would rather use the Calvin Johnson, but Sean Taylor, amazing user still. Alright, next up we got Taylor Mays. He's an S tier, very similar to Calvin Johnson. I think he's 6'4", so he's just an inch shorter. He's a much better safety than Calvin Johnson, but he also is an insane user. Those are probably the top 2 users in the game, honestly. With Taylor Mays, I don't know why I almost said Jared Mays, but we got Taylor Mays and Calvin Johnson, probably the 2 best users in the game. Both golden tickets. I mean, they deserve it for sure. With them getting the golden ticket, they both have insane, like, zone, man, insane play rec, insane hit power, insane just height. I mean, they're both just like the perfect build for a user, and honestly safeties as well. Next up we got Jesse Tuggle, B tier. He's like a Bobby Wagner, he's like a Luke Kuechly, like an Eric Hendricks, just kind of a normal linebacker, nothing special about him. He's pretty fast, good hit power, somewhat tall, pretty big build. He's like the perfect non-user, so like the computer controlled linebacker, but he's not the best user in the world just because his zone is pretty high. He's not the fastest linebacker in the world. Like, that's why you want like safety sometimes using over the middle, or you want someone like Troy Palamalu over the middle that you use just because they're so much faster, and having a fast user, of course, is essential. But I really like Jesse Tuggle as a non-user middle linebacker, just kind of someone who roams over the middle, gets picks here and there, and just plays really good defense and locks up his zone. So, not a bad card, but he doesn't fit the user role that the other cards do. Next up, we got Troy Polamalu. I'd put him in A tier just because he's short. Like, he's just as good a user as these guys, but he's just short. Like, that's what downgrades him from these guys. He would be so good if he was just a little taller. He's very similar to Pat Tillman in the fact that He's just short, but with Lurker, he's still a great user. Wouldn't not recommend him. I mean, unless you're using the strong safety Troy Palamalu, which is right here. We'll just say this is the power-up expansion. But unless you're using the power-up expansion, this card is very good. But I would rather use this Troy Palamalu at safety and just have someone like Patrick Queen, or get someone like Ryan Shazier or Isaiah Simmons over the middle. They use just tall, fast, that you can use over the middle without having to worry about using up Troy Palamalu, a strong safety who plays really well strong safety. And then next up we got Ronnie Lockhart. Again, A tier. He's more of a safety. Like, I really like this Ronnie Lockhart. He's insane hit power at free safety, which is really what you need. Like, there's not a lot of free safeties that have like insane hit power other than B-Doc and Ronnie Lott. So having those kind of cards is really helpful. So Ronnie Lott having insane hit power makes him really good, but like I said, he's more of a safety more than a user, very similar to Sean Taylor. But if you really want to use him over the middle, you can. He plays so well at safety. I don't think you want to waste his talent at user when you have someone like Ryan Shazier. Like I said, you have like Devin Bush, you have who's another good one, just Deion Jones, someone who's fast who can play over the middle. Why don't you just use Ronnie Lott deep in blue coverages and all that kind of stuff. Next up we got Brian Dawkins. Probably S tier for me. Yeah, I'll put him in S tier just because I believe he's like 6'1", 6'2", so he does lack in height, but he's a Sean Taylor and a Ronnie Lott. I'd say him and Sean Taylor are about equal, but Brian Dawkins is a better user just because I believe he is a little taller. Maybe they're the same height, but Brian Dawkins, just the way he jumps. Like, I used his legend card and a little bit of his ultimate legend card, but only like a little bit. I use him as a power up pass just to test him out, but his legend card was insane, man. It had hops for days. He was jumping super high even without Lurker, so that's why I think I'm ranking Brian Dawkins a little higher, because he jumped super high. He was great as a user for me because I loved running safeties in the nickel at that time and running them over the middle to user as my user. But yeah, Brian Dawkins is one of the best users in the game for sure. Like I said, I wouldn't waste his, it's not wasting his talents, but I wouldn't use him as a user even though he is an S tier, but that's just because he's insane. But I would let him be out in the deep and just playing as a safety role, getting big hits and all that stuff, playing coverage, and use like a Pat Willis or a Ryan Shazier over the middle as a user when they're probably just as fast and better and not quite as good as zone coverage, but they're gonna lock up the middle. They're gonna hit guys real hard, probably harder than B-Dog, just because they're linebackers. Then I think that's a much better fit if you were gonna do that. Next up we got Pat Willis. Insane. He's as fast as I believe all these guys, except maybe Taylor Mays. Taylor Mays is insanely fast for his height, but Pat Willis, he's just so big that his speed makes him so good. He's one of the few actual middle linebackers that is a good user. Like, obviously, like, there's middle linebackers down here that are serviceable users, but there's like the few that are insanely fast, that are insane users, and that's what you get out of Patrick Willis. He's such a big hitter. He's just amazing at what he does, because he's literally like the perfect middle linebacker user that you would want. Like I said about Calvin Johnson, literally the perfect user. Sean Taylor, the perfect safety. He's the perfect middle linebacker. Fast, big, good hit power, good zone coverage, decent enough man coverage where he can man up on tight ends and occasional receivers. He's insane, man. He's played so well. Next up we got Willie Linear, I believe that is. Very similar to Jesse Tuggle, except Willie Linear, I feel like he's a little bit faster and a little more diverse in what he can do than Jesse Tuggle. But Willie Linear, still a good card. He is only a 98, so that does put him at a little bit of a disadvantage when it comes to like Patrick Queen and all that. But still, not a bad card at all. We got Eric Hendricks. I didn't use this card, but I didn't hear great things about him. He's slow. He's not huge like Patrick Willis, but he's big enough, I guess. He doesn't have insane hit power, so Eric Hendricks, he's kind of just a worse version of Pat Willis, Jesse Tuggle, Willie Linear, so he's going to go down here. We got Jabril Peppers. I use this card. He is a very good user. I'm going to have to put him in A tier. Maybe it's my little bias that I used him so much, but whenever I would use him over the middle, he was insane, man. He would get so many picks over the middle. Even though he is somewhat short, I believe he's 5'11", he had the hops like Brian Dawkins and Troy Palamalu, where he was just jumping everywhere, getting all these picks, and it was amazing for sure. We got CJ Mosley coming up and I'm going to put him in C tier. CJ Mosley's cards weren't good this year. He was slow. His zone coverage was really good. Other than that, like, he's a good non-user middle linebacker, but Jesse Tuggle was better because he's faster. CJ Mosley was just too slow to be usable this year. We got Roquan Smith. I know Roquan Smith was loved when he did come out in April. Damn, I can't believe the draft promo was that long ago, but very similar to these two. I feel like a lot of the linebackers are going to go in the B tier because they're just a worse Pat Willis. I mean, Pat Willis is just so good because his speed is insane. But like Jesse Tuggle, Willie Linear, Roquan Smith, they're all a Pat Willis just with worse speed and like a little bit worse hit power, but speed is really what defines a great user. Also hit power, obviously, and all the other stuff, but speed, without good speed, you're not really a good user. Next up, we got Luke Kuechly. Once again, very similar to these linebackers, but I loved Luke Kuechly this year. He felt so tall. I don't know why. Like, I believe he's like 6'1", 6'2" in real life, maybe 6'3" tallest, but he just felt so tall in Madden this year. Like, his player build, his body build was just so much bigger than 6'1", 6'2". I don't know how to explain it, but again, he's very similar to these guys and where, like, just a very well-rounded middle linebacker who would probably be better suited as a non-user, but, I mean, you could definitely use him over the middle if you're a fan of these guys, or you just kind of want to use these guys for some reason. Jordan Hicks, very similar to CJ Mosley, kind of slow, not great hit power. He's going to go down there. Deion Jones, he was super underwhelming this year. Like, his cards weren't that great, honestly. Like, he's always known as one of the speed demons of linebackers up there with, like, Anthony Barr, Pat Willis, all those guys. But he just really wasn't all that this year. Like, I mean, he was fast, but, like, you had, because of sprinter and all that, everyone was as fast as him, if not faster. So he really didn't have, like, an impact like he did in the past Maddens where, like, he was so much faster than everyone else. Well, this year he was literally same speed as everyone else, so he didn't feel much different. Once again, he was a little more elusive, I would say. He wasn't as big of a linebacker as, like, Pat Willis and Luke Kuechly. He's just not as big. Like, he's not as big built, so I think that really just put him at a disadvantage of him coming down to earth with his speed and not having a big player build. Then we got Tahir Whitehead. I had him on the Panthers theme team. I still have him on that team, but he's just not that good. I mean, he's just a great zone linebacker, so if you really need, like, a guy who's cheap to run your zone over the middle who you're not going to use, I mean, you guess you could get Tahir Whitehead, but I would recommend getting to someone like Jesse Tuggle or Roquan Smith who are better than Tahir Whitehead just because their speed is so much better, but I guess not the worst if you're really using a theme team or anything like that. Then we got AJ Johnson. I liked AJ Johnson. He had great hit power and great speed, which is very good, of course, that you want out of him, but he kind of lacked in everything else. I mean, AJ Johnson did kind of have a breakout season this year, and I'm happy for him because I know he was way under the radar at the beginning of the season. But, like I said, he really, like, he just is very fast and good hit power, but he lacks in everything else after that. That's why Patrick Willis is so good, because he's amazing speed, amazing hit power. He's literally amazing everything. AJ Johnson, I feel like if he was better in everything, he'd be up there with Patrick Willis, but the speed and the hit power is really all he stands out in. Then we got B-Dog, the Ultimate Legend version. I'd say B tier for Brian Dawkins, just because the hit power on this card wasn't amazing. I believe it was an 89 on this card, which is a little sucky, which isn't bad. I believe that is enough for Enforcer, but still a little low hit power, which you would want on a user. So he was pretty decently fast, but I mean, if you're just gonna get a user very similar to Brian Dawkins, get like a Jabril Peppers, get a Sean Taylor, get a Troy Polamalu, who's a little expensive, obviously, get a Ronnie Lott, get those guys who are better and just probably similar price. No, they're not similar price. They're a little more expensive. Jabril Peppers are probably similar price, but I would rather save up for a Ronnie Lott than use a Brian Dawkins and settle because Ronnie Lott is just significantly better. Then we got Ray Lewis. I mean, once again, literal clone of all these guys. He's just so big. Like, his hit power is insane. He is just unbelievably big, and that's what makes him such a good linebacker, but he's not that fast. His zone isn't great, his player isn't great, but he, like I said, he's a huge body. He gets a bunch of fumbles over the middle, so he's very good, but the lacking in the speed is where he really struggles. And then we got Mika Fitzpatrick. Don't really like him as a user. He's a decent safety over the top. Like, he's still pretty good, even though he came out in, like, February. But, yes, still very good safety over the top. But, like I said, just not a great user. I wouldn't really use him as a user. But other than that, like, good safety. And like I said at the beginning of this tier list, like, if you really like using these guys, you can. But, like I said, I would recommend mainly using only S and A. But Mika Fitzpatrick, it's not that he's a bad card. It's just he's not a good user. We got Jamal Adams. A little bit outdated, honestly. Like, I don't know what to say. Like, he's a good user, but he's outdated. Like, he's just a worse Jabril Peppers, a worse Troy Polamalu, a worse Sean Taylor. That's all he really is. This Troy Polamalu, I mean, pretty much almost identical to that card when he's a power-up expansion, except he's a little worse, but I feel like there's not enough difference to where you'll notice if you're going to use him over the middle. If you're going to really use a Troy Polamalu as your user the whole time, just get the strong safety one and play him over the middle. But if you're not going to play him all the time, you're not going to always use him, and you're going to use him for multiple things, I would say get this card. But still, not a bad card, all fully power-up expansion. Pretty decent either way, and I'd say you won't feel much difference to this card if you're using them in very similar scenarios. Then we got Bryant Erlacker. Wouldn't use him as a user. Very similar to Tahir Whitehead, great hit power, great play rec. he's very smart, and he's gonna make good plays over the middle, but he's not fast enough to be able to use her. Like CJ Mosley, T.R. Whitehead, Brian Erlacker, all very similar. So I would put him down as a C tier, but he's pretty dang good over the middle, just kind of non-user linebacker. But like I said, just buy a Jussie Tuggle, just buy a Willie Linear, buy a heck, buy a Troy Palamalu, who'll be a better fit in that scenario anyway. But then we got Lofa Tatupu. I didn't use this card at all, so I mean, from what I can see on his player build and what I saw in his stats, he's very similar to all these cards, and the fact that he's pretty big build, he's got decent speed, decent hit power, he's decent at everything. That's what all these linebackers like compared to Patrick Willis. But then we got Bosworth. Bosworth is good, man. Like, he's as big as Ray Lewis, but he's much faster. He's just a better Ray Lewis. That's all he is. He's almost as good as Pat Willis. Not almost. He's not even close to Pat Willis, but he's like what you would want out of Pat Willis, except he's not quite there in the speed department and the zone coverage department. Brian Bosworth is such a big hitter, and he's so good, and he's so smart over the middle, but he's a better Ray Lewis, but he's not quite there on the Patrick Willis level. Then we got Devin Bush. Like, I mean, I guess he's fast, but he doesn't compare to any of these guys now, really. I mean, I want to put him in D tier, but he's so fast. I mean, you could make an argument that he is usable at C tier, so we'll do that. Then we got Derek Brooks, very similar to Brian Bosworth. Great zone coverage, big body, great hitter, pretty decently fast, very similar. Like, these Brian Bosworth and Derek Brooks are very similar cards, I would say. Then we got Keith Bullock. I'll put him in A. Once again, these three cards are very similar. Keith Bullock is just, because he's a golden ticket, I say he's higher because his stats are insane, but he is very similar on these levels where he's a great big hitter. He's not insanely fast, but he's pretty fast because he's a golden ticket, and he's got great zone, just an insane big hitter. Then we got Anthony Barr. 6'5", insane speed. Anthony Barr has always been one of the best users in Madden. He was a little lower on my, I haven't made a linebacker tier list, but if I were to, he'd be a little lower on there if it's just a strictly linebacker tier list, because everyone has gained speed this year, just like I talked about with Deion Jones, because of Sprinter and all those speed chems that really came and really helped this year. I wouldn't say helped, they were kind of mixed emotions about them, but they really helped people get to 99 speed, and with that, like, Anthony Barr's cards were a little less relevant, but I feel like it's still a very good card for sure, and nothing matches the 6'5", 99 speed that him and Patrick Willis and Calvin Johnson have. Then we got Isaiah Simmons. He's an A tier. I mean, he's tall, insane speed, pretty dang good zone. He can rush the passer a little bit, so another reason I really like him, but I mean, he's very similar to just like a Calvin Johnson, but a little bit worse just because his stats aren't quite there. And then we got Ryan Shazier. He's an S tier guy for me. I mean, Ryan Shazier, he's got insane zone. He gets enforcer over the middle. He's really pretty decently tall. I believe he's 6'2", but he's so fast, man. He's probably the fastest linebacker user in the game, up there with Pat Willis. I think he's higher than Pat Willis, honestly. But Ryan Shazier, maybe it's just because I love Ryan Shazier, even though I am a Browns fan, I still love Ryan Shazier. He was out of Ohio State, I believe. Yeah, he was. So another reason I love him, but he's definitely deserving of that 99, and he's definitely deserving of being in the S tier just because how good he plays. It's kind of hard to explain because he doesn't seem like he'd be an insane card, but he just plays insane, man. He's so good, and yeah, guys, I don't think there's really a tier of D because I think all of these guys are usable users, except maybe like T.R. Whitehead and like CJ Mosley, which aren't really usable. But I still think all these guys are somewhat usable as a user if you guys are a fan of their teams. At this point in Madden, just play with who you want to play with. Sell off all your sweaty cards and just build a team of your favorite cards, or build a theme team of your favorite team. Just have fun in these last few weeks of the game. But yeah, guys, that's gonna be the video. Hope you guys did enjoy the video, and if you did, make sure to drop a like down below and subscribe when notice on. But yeah, I'll see you boys in the next one. Peace out.